Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. This is Stefano, and I'm here with my friend Maurizio. We are ready to tackle a subject that I think is relevant to many of you. Maurizio?
Buongiorno, buonanotte, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So nice to be here and in this nice conversation with Stefano and with Sandeep. And we want to thank Sandeep for his collaboration and his willingness to make this a really interesting conversation about retail and the future of it.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a shame that Sandeep is only with us in spirit today, because when we tried to have this conversation last week live, we had a number of technical glitches. Before we start, we can actually watch the short video that we had our virtual assistant prepare for us, the state of the industry, and it gives us some interesting data. So let's just watch this.
Hello, I am your virtual intern. What is the state of retail today? This is what our research found. Let's go. First things first, the current crisis is only an acceleration of a trend begun years ago. Truth is, we oversaturated the retail space. In the USA, we have 23.5 square feet of retail per person. That is like 2 times Australia, almost 5 times the UK or Japan, 10 times Germany or South Korea. So, what happened? Take a walk around a city, or a mall, see how many stores have closed in the last couple of years. Store close all the time. During the last recession, in the USA, 6,163 closed in 2008. In 2017, 8,139, in 2018 almost 6,000, and in 2019 a whopping 9,100. In the UK, 16,073 closed in 2019, and the number is already over 16,000 in the middle of 2020. Malls in the USA grew more than twice as fast as the population between 1970 and 2015. Their number is expected to drop from 1,150 today to fewer than 850 within a few years. This year so far, Neiman Marcus, Lucky Brand, True Religion, J.Crew, JCPenney, Brooks Brothers filed for bankruptcy protection. Where do we go from here? Let's discuss.
And we're back. What do you think?
Well, first of all, it's a very US-centric presentation, I would say. But I would also say that it's the same all over the world, right? With very few exceptions. So it's don't look too much into this, but let's take a global view of the state of retail, and it's challenging, it's difficult, it's complicated everywhere. From any point of view, from brands to landlords from department stores to specialty stores, we are all basically experiencing exactly the same thing. One thing to consider is that, which is extremely important, is that even though we read that companies are about 20, 30, 35% short in their revenue plans, I think the situation is a lot worse. And I would say that we are at probably a 50% revenues comparing to last year. So and it has been global. As you know, I hear that in Japan it's not better. In China, there are very good signs, but it's not back to normality. And Europe is extremely challenging. And United States is that basically, I mean, at least here in LA, I see stores not reopening. We see restaurants and food shops that have reopened, but retail is zero right now. So it's very, very challenging times.
We see the number of bankruptcies growing every day. There's a new company shutting down every day, and but one of the things that came from the numbers is that this is not really something that just started this year because of the virus. This is something that has been going on for a while, and we have had a massive saturation on the retail scene, especially here in the US. So there was some kind of adjustment was going to happen regardless. What's happening today is a very sharp, very wild acceleration of a process that had already started. And
Exactly.
And of course, this is making everything worse because people are not really ready for it. So you can plan if you say, well, I know that in 5-year time or 10-year time, if I have 1,000 stores today, I'll probably have to think about having 700, 750, 600 or whatever, because I have too many anyways. And you start planning towards that. So you just do it gradually, and it doesn't really affect your business that much. But if you have to do it within 6 months instead of 6 years, then things change dramatically. The other thing is that even though many stores have been closing for many years, a lot of them reopened, or they changed name, or they came back in different shape or form. I don't think that many of the stores that are closing today are going to reopen, unfortunately. Like, we're going to see big retailers disappear completely. We're going to see brands disappear, and that's something that nobody is ready for. We're not prepared for that. So I think that's why we're kind of in a state of shock. The rates of closures and bankruptcies is going to go up. There's no doubt. You said 30% less, 40% less, 50% less. That's not sustainable for anybody. The big landlords.
But No, it means also that maybe 30, 40, 50% of the shopping center will not reopen, or will reopen completely changed. That 30, 40, 50% of the brands will die, unfortunately.
Yep.
And so department stores and some other retailers, not necessarily in the clothing business, that will close, and that's where I see the opportunity, will transform themselves. Mm-hmm. I think this is the, we all knew, we know now that the situation before the virus was bad, but it was masked. It was packaged as a challenging time. It was not a disruptive situation. Then the acceleration happened with the virus, and for some of the brands was a blessing. I mean, there are certain brands, certain companies that are taking advantage of the virus to reorganize, to go bankrupt and seek reorganization, fire people that they don't need, hire people that they need. Think about, and going back to our business, think about issues like overproduction, type of product, what the company stands for. There is an identity crisis with this revenue crisis. There is also an identity crisis. What a brand stands for. Just that. It's like, okay, we are down 50% with the business. We need to reorganize. Do we like the brands that we have? Do we like the company that we have? What do we stand for? What is the value and the principle of these brands? And a lot of brands are looking into this. So it's a moment of reevaluation, not only of the business, but the spiritual meaning of a brand. Retail became truly the showroom for a brand, an opportunity to sell, of course, but also an opportunity to show to the public what brand one has and what stands for. Now it's a moment where we truly need to reconsider that.
a lot of brands that are out there maybe should not be there. A lot of the retailers that are there maybe should not
For
be
sure.
there. So it's
For
not,
sure.
there might be a silver bullet in here, but it's shocking because unfortunately, sadly, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and it's going to have a huge domino effect on the whole supply chain.
Yeah.
So this is going to impact everybody worldwide. It's not just
For
a
sure. For
localized thing. But yes, people have to really start thinking about, why are they in business in the first place? What is the reason for them to be there? I always say that if a brand doesn't have a soul, it has no reason to exist. There's no purpose for that brand.
For sure.
And
now more than ever.
And now more than ever, because when things are good, then it doesn't really matter. But today people are starting to look into that.
I think there would be like 2 or 3 scenarios. The first scenario is between now and and then when a vaccine or a cure will take effect. And so between now and then, it will be about survival, truly.
Mm-hmm.
It would be about reorganization and a return to the clear principle and values for the company and the brand that you have. So that needs to happen for sure, absolutely, yesterday, today, tomorrow. And in a near future, we need to take care of all of these things. How are we going to? Do we have enough money to survive? One, is the story of the company that we have good enough? And is the product that we make good enough?
Mm-hmm.
These are the 3 things, in my opinion, that we need to tackle right away. Then there will be the after the vaccine, when things will go, quote unquote, back to normality for some, because some people will want to go back to what they had before. Mm-hmm. For sure. Or they don't have the capacity, or they don't have the creative energy to re-engineer their brand. And then within the time of the new vaccine, there will be companies that will come back completely different. And we hope so, that will be the majority of them. And when I say different, they will have a clear identity. They will have an interesting brand proposition that maybe they don't have right now. There will be a redefinition of what mass fashion is, or fast fashion is, and all the way to what luxury means. And we're going to go back to what luxury was 30, 40, 50 years ago. Very exclusive, probably. And my hope is that these luxury brands will also make luxury product.
Yeah, absolutely.
With raising the price.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see Darwin's theory of evolution proving itself. It's not going to be necessarily the survival of the strongest or the fittest, but it's going to be the survival of the ones who can adapt. I think being really big right now is probably a liability rather than an asset, because you have a much bigger problem than most, and you can't react quickly. The only advantage they may have in some cases is that they have a very strong financial background, so they can probably survive it. But they really need to reinvent themselves. I was talking months ago to a customer in Europe, large retailer, and I said, quite frankly, for companies like yours, the writing is on the wall, and it has been for a while. I think you really need to smash the box and rebuild it completely, because the formula that you have, which obviously has been really successful for many decades, is no longer applicable. There's no point trying to cling to that. You look at gigantic monsters like JCPenney, which a few years ago we thought was untouchable, and now it's gone. It's pretty much finished. It's funny because a few years ago, Ron Johnson tried to turn it around, and he was chased out of the company with pitches and forks by the shareholders. But actually, I think he was right. He tried to do it too fast, and he went very strongly against the culture of the company and their customers. But the basic ideas of his reinvention plan were absolutely sound. And that's exactly what JCPenney should have done if they wanted to have a chance of survival. And instead, the moment they saw that the numbers were starting to go the wrong way, the shareholders obviously went mad, and they said, no, we're going back to what we used to do before. And that was basically the end of the company. And it's sad because those are companies that have created our industry in this country.
Yeah.
Once those big retailers go, the major impact is going to be on the big malls. Big malls, they count on those big presences. You start taking JCPenney and Sears and a couple of those other guys out of one mall, and it's finished.
I think maybe we're going towards really understanding what volume is.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about the negative impact of clothing, we produce too many. Overproduction is that's where the problem is. It's that the problem begins. We are overproducing, but we also overproduce department stores. We overproduce shopping centers.
Yeah.
We overproduce everything. So we don't, when we think of a gap, just to mention that, do we need 1,500 gaps in United States? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, we don't.
How many Victoria's Secret, how many Zara, how many H&M, how many Saks Fifth Avenue, how many Nordstrom do we need? No wonder now they're saying, we don't need 100. We can do it with 70. We can do it with 50. So everybody is, right? Everybody is reducing, and what they're going to get back is probably brand relevance. And then their margins are going to be a little bit better, I suppose. And then they will be able to curate their space and brands and selection and customer experience differently. We're talking about retail, physical retail.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about the digital expression of a brand and e-commerce and all of that. That's something that we might want to touch a little bit later on, which is, by the way, is the only thing that kind of works right now, and has kept certain brands alive during the last 5-6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. The internet component is interesting because a lot of these traditional retailers, when they have to explain why the numbers are down, they normally have two excuses. One is the weather, and the other one is the internet. The internet is not this mythological figure that just happened overnight and started closing stores. It's only one additional channel of distribution. It's one additional means of promoting, marketing, and branding your company. If you know how to do it properly, that's not an enemy. That's actually your best partner. And some companies are starting to see that. In the grand scheme of things, online retail sales in this country are only, I think the first quarter of 2019 was about 10% of the total retail volume. And in 2020 is 11%. I'm pretty sure that second, the third quarter, and fourth quarter of 2020 is going to be much higher than that, because if you can't go to a physical store, obviously your only chances to buy something is go online. But the internet itself is not the enemy. The fact that people rather buy online than go into a store is actually a symptom of a problem that they have. And the problem is that it's not an engaging experience. I don't want to go to a store. If there is a store that I like, when I lived in the UK, I used to go to London almost every week, and I would always go to Paul Smith's store. And I did not go with the intention of buying something necessarily. But once you're in there, it's really hard to leave the store without a little bag with something, because it's so compelling. The big department stores, we say they're dead. Yeah, probably they are. But I still enjoy going to Isetan, to Selfridges, to Harrods. There are stores that actually make it a nice, compelling, interesting experience, and I think that's what we're lacking. We have too much retail space in this country. We have too many people selling exactly the same stuff. There's no differentiation. The big marketing mantra for many years was basically buy them high and sell them cheap. So that was a drive to keep reducing the price and reduce the cost, so that it could be 50 cents, $1 cheaper than the guy next door. That's not a winning strategy. It does work in the short term, but in the long term, we see what's happening. Thousands and thousands of stores closing.
We see it. We see this happening, and we were complaining years ago about how boring retail was. Mm-hmm. You have a deterioration of independent stores. Okay, rent is too high, so you have less independent, good independent stores. Then a lot of them cannot afford the rent, cannot afford to have several people working in the store 7 days a week. We have brands not selling them because positioning, because of many different, and then you have discounts happening all the time, which will erode your margins. So retail is extremely complicated. And because there are too many of the same things, and with that also I have to admit that extremely bad customer service has been the common denominator from the majority of independent stores all the way to large box department stores. And just people don't want to be there. They don't want to service. The idea of servicing the customer, it's gone.
Yeah.
Nobody want, you have people have no idea what they're selling. They don't want to learn about it. They are on the phone all the time, right? And then you have, so it's that also. Now that bothers me. It bothers me when I go shopping. I don't want to be there because they don't want to be there.
No, that's why
stores. I mean, how many times we see shops closing, and then but we remember that their window was dirty. They had no merchandising in the store. The customer service was bad. There is zero reason to buy anything. So I think that needed to change, and I'm not happy about what we are experiencing with this virus, but maybe we need to embrace this situation as an opportunity for a change.
Yeah,
what is gonna happen is that department stores that own 500,000 square feet per location, they're gonna become landlords because wholesale is disappearing. Brands want to be more involved with direct to consumer. They want to own the experience. So department store will rent a location from a landlord, and brands will rent from department stores. And there will be probably a larger conversation about what the department store positioning and principles and values are, so to accommodate only certain brands, not all of them. And we hopefully are going to see less discounts, which has ruined completely the market. And there will be a more honest price point and a more honest product with quality. I hope that the customer will enjoy for a longer period of time.
That's why I mentioned Paul Smith, because the attention to product is rare, but also the attention to customer service. Paul himself, he had the studio upstairs in the same building, and every night around 5:30, when he finished his office work, he would be in the store and serving customers himself, because he wanted to get straight feedback. He wanted to really figure out what customers wanted, what they were looking for. In the big department stores, one of the exceptions and one that has performed better than the most is Nordstrom, which has a philosophy of cultivating customer service. It's really about the customer, and that's why they're still doing a little better than most. I think we can probably start looking at some of the questions that we had from Sandeep's posting, right?
Should we start with Cornelius?
Let's start with Cornelius. Yeah, he put a couple of questions there, both very interesting. We'll have to keep it short because it's kind of outside the scope of the retail project, but I think it's really interesting. It says how to make humans aware of consuming less in order to stop the overconsumption industry.
The question is very timely because we got the help of a virus to realize that we need a lot less, I suppose, than ever before. And I guess this good awakening, I think, for people to realize that by staying home, by not going shopping, not having an opportunity to shop, that they were, we all have been rethinking about our wardrobe and what we have already at home and bought and used or not used at all. And I think that the general consensus is that we need a lot less. So I think that that's a great first step, forced, I would say, by the circumstances. But I think we all know that we don't need all of that stuff. I mean, I've been working on producing less and reimagining more for quite a some time now, and I realized that by just looking at my archive.
We live in this society where we're basically brainwashed to buy crap that we don't need with money we don't have,
Sure.
to impress people we don't like. It's absolutely absurd. 100 billion pieces of apparel every year for a population of 7 billion. There's no logic. Forget about the sustainability aspect for a second. Even from a financial standpoint, what is the point of making more than 10 times what you really need? Infinite growth of material consumption in a finite world is an impossibility. And people still don't understand it. We keep chasing this infinite growth. All these big companies, the shareholders keep pushing and pushing and pushing for growth. It's a fallacy. It's just not possible.
Well, it's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
It's not in the financial and as a business plan. There is, I think that there is a limit. You cannot, and we should not allow brands to dominate the market. Mm-hmm. I believe that. I believe that brands, and now they are, as a consequence of this crisis, is that brands will be smaller. Mm-hmm. And they need to be okay with that. Maybe that, there are $4-5 billion company that struggle with the business, even though there is so much, they have so much revenues, but maybe they need to, and they probably going to be more successful and profitable if they are half of the size.
My friend Giovanni Manzoni, it would be interesting to understand the future of digital aspects and the old real approach in the retail store, which is losing more and more their role in the marketplace.
Yeah, the future, the combination digital and physical, I think it's key in the future. I think that digital to me also means flat experience. So even though it's full of content, you can give me a lot of content to read, a lot of imagery to see, a lot of inspiration for my mind, but the experience is flat. It's a 2D experience, while the physical store is a 3D experience. There is a human touch. There is a that you can, there are feelings. There is an idea of space, of environment. And so the emotional value of a physical store is important.
I absolutely love everything that is technology and digital, but I think it's foolish to think that can actually replace all of our experiences. It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And so you just need to find the right balance between digital for what digital can do and physical for what physical can do. So like you said, store of the future to me is very, very small, because you only need to have one or two examples of a product, and then you can go feel it, check it out, see if it's what you actually expect it to be, and then you can order there online, and then all the fulfillment and everything is behind the scenes. Yeah. So the actual store will not disappear. Will transform.
No, it will not. It will not, exactly. The experience of retail will change, I hope, dramatically, where there will be less spaces.
So we have Janie here from New York. Well, she's British, but from New York. We'd love to hear your views on how far-reaching and impactful can the sustainability conversation actions be in the denim industry known for its high water usage while continuing to exist as a viable business. Well, yeah, sustainability is finally something that people are taking seriously. Hopefully it's not just a marketing gimmick, and it's going to finally transform our industry and make it less damaging than it has been for a long time. And I think that the two are not mutually exclusive. You can be very responsible and very aware of your impact and still manage to have a viable and successful business.
How do you see that, Stefano, in retail? How do you think? How do we envision denim brands showing up at retail in the future? considering, the sustainability factor. And
well, I think one thing that is really important is that we start to really educate people, educate our customers, and tell them exactly what's going on behind the scenes, and show them where the cotton is coming from. That's not from places where people are held in concentration camps. Show them where the water is coming from, whether it's sewage water that is recycled. Show them what kind of dye stuff that we're using that is not toxic to the workers. How our factories operate, and that people are making a living wage. If we are very open and transparent, then we build a solid relationship with our customers. They are happy to help support you, knowing that you're doing the right thing. The trouble is when everybody's talking about being the greenest and the most sustainable on the planet without showing any fact, nothing. They just come up with this story that, I'm saving 20% of water. What does that even mean? You're saving compared to what? I mean, what were you doing before, and who's measuring that? It's nonsense. But I think the ones who are doing it seriously and will start to do it seriously will reap the benefits in the future, in denim and other categories. Just as well. Sandeep, so the question, how would retail be affected differently in US, Europe, and Asia?
Europe, and Asia. That's interesting. I'm not an expert in anything, but but I think particularly when we're talking about the future, but I would say that generally speaking, retail is affected everywhere, different degrees, but the idea of rethinking about what retail really means and is on every table, on every company, and it's the central, I would say, one of the central question of the future of the clothing industry, particularly, is, what is retail, and for brands, how can I differentiate my retail expression, my retail experience around the world, and how can I localize my brand?
Obviously, the rest of the world followed the US on the retail scene, for the good and for the bad. The US has always been kind of the master of retail in the traditional sense. And I think now that we're all being hit so hard, being the biggest ones is not going to be a good thing. The bigger companies are the ones that are going to have the bigger problems, also because they're the ones that will have the hardest time changing quickly and adapting quickly. So I think the US will probably be affected the worst for a longer period of time, followed by Europe. In Asia, depends on where you are in Asia, of course. But I think if they're smart, they can learn from our mistakes and not repeat them. They have a great opportunity now to create it the proper way. It's actually exciting for them. Regarding Glenn's question, the empty space is going to be a huge problem. Some of the malls are going to close. There's no doubt about it. And we have too many. Some will have to close. When you have a big mall with a big space that cannot be utilized, then it becomes a challenge for the landlord, because they don't have the revenue and they don't know what to do with that big space. Neiman Marcus, big complex on the Hudson River, going to be converted into offices. You cannot really do that everywhere because there's no demand for office space either. One thing that I was thinking, to me, it would be ideal for a company like Amazon, for example, to put distribution centers in there. They've been trying very hard to do the next day delivery. And the next step for them is to try to achieve the same day delivery. And if you have more distribution centers in these big populated areas, you can actually have a situation where you can walk into the store with your phone, with your tablet. You can shop online or you can do it from home. Then you walk in there and you pick it up right away, or they ship it right away. Sometimes it's good to pick up the product in person and have it in your hands immediately. There's something satisfying about opening the box right away. They could actually do that and be even faster to market. The other option, which requires more elevated thinking, is to transform many of these into cultural areas where they become the social center of the city. And that's where you have your cultural events, your art galleries, your small shops, cooperatives, your small manufacturing, your artist studios.
I think at the end, we agree that the most creative people in this industry should be the landlords. And I think that the landlords absolutely need to rethink about rent, how to charge people, how to bring traffic, if that will happen again. So it's a lot, the most dynamic and creative real estate minds will succeed. But because I don't think we're going to go back to the retail formula of the past. When I say retail formula, locations and rent and
big box,
the cost of building a shop.
The gigantic box, the 2 or 3 big anchor stores, and then a bunch of the same stores everywhere. That if they drop you into a department store anywhere in the country, you cannot tell what city you're in. It's impossible because it could be anywhere. I think we probably answered Vinod's question already. I like Ram's question. Ram Sarin. He said, "Is there still a market or customer for so-called premium denim?" And we try to keep it short because I could talk about this for days. Because it's a really interesting and I like. There's no market, there's no interest for so-called premium, but I think if you have a product that is truly premium in the real sense of the word, there will always be a market for that. And price is not consideration when you have a really great product. There will always be somebody willing to buy it. The rest, they want to be premium. These brands are all trying to be the same as that one famous brand that is out there that paved the way. It's over for them. I think we see it in LA. Yeah. We've seen it in LA for the last 2 or 3 years. It's pretty much over.
I think that the premium denim, again, it's another creation of a marketing department, somebody's marketing department, where they saw an opportunity to sell for more a product that wasn't really a lot more than normal. Originally, premium meant exceptional fabrics and great constructions, and premium is like luxury for clothing. It was meant to be that because all of a sudden some of the early brands, premium brands, were the Italian brands, the Replay and the Diesel, and so on, and then Earl Denim in the United States was the first premium brand. Paper denim was another one, but they are no longer that. I think that word is no longer valid because it's very misleading. I've been collecting Japanese denim brands. To me, that is premium. That is actually the best jeans in the marketplace. Was the Japanese brands, those Japanese brands, which will be collectible in 10 years. It will be the new vintage. It will be those Japanese brands.
Still a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Where are we on circular products in denims? What is the future on such products? We're nowhere near where we should be. Some people are starting to look into that. The big obstacle to me is the fact that we're not addressing the issue in the proper manner. We try to fix some of the elements, but we don't consider the whole. If, for example, we want to talk about circularity, we cannot keep blending different fibers because we are defeating the idea of trying to recycle something. So we have to be a lot more careful and a lot more serious in the design process at the very beginning and consider not only the product right now, but what's going to happen to the product in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years when it's over.
Yeah, there's another. Yes, that's very good. There's another misconception is that circular. What does it mean to create a circular product? Is that I think that it starts with design. We need to start thinking that a product is designed for longevity, and that's really circularity. It's like there is a pair of jeans in this case can be worn in a certain way for a certain number of years, and then it can become something else. That's circularity. It can be sold and reused and reimagined and transform. And in one item, if it is designed for longevity, it can have many different lives. That's what the circularity means. all the way to becoming biodegradable. That would be, the ultimate goal.
This is a good one, Jeff. How does a retailer best express honest value? And he's talking about the race to the bottom in prices and the fact that promotion is one of the big problems that we have in our industry. And I wrote an article a while ago talking about the race to the bottom in prices, and it's a race where there's really no winner. There's only losers there. The moment we accepted the fact that you can buy a pair of jeans for less than you buy a cappuccino from Starbucks, then I think we completely lost track of reality.
Probably the biggest issue of all is that in the name, we are conceptualizing, designing, making, and selling jeans with already a discount percentage in mind. So that is the cancer. That's the problem that we all need to eradicate. There will be plenty of discounts for the next 18 months because everybody has overproduced or got stuck with a lot of merchandise. But I think the future of it's in the honesty of brands. This race to volume and race to the cheapest for margins. It needs to be completely reevaluated. Yeah,
we need to start talking about value rather than price. Last question, and this from Jim Montesano. We're talking about legends in our industry. Jim was the co-founder of Bongo, then the co-founder and owner of Lucky Brand, and then eventually started Civilianaire. And he's saying, what are your thoughts on the lack of curators in retail? Everyone carries the same brands. 100% true. One of the problems is too much retail space. The second problem right next to it is that they're all carrying the same stuff. They're all making exactly the same product. They all look the same. There's no differentiation other than the price tag.
I think that, we don't have good curate. First of all, who is a curator?
Buyer or the merchandiser is that person.
Exactly. So what do you need to be a good curator? You need to have taste. You need to have culture. You need to be culturally savvy. You need to have knowledge, some experience. You need to take risks, being able to take risks. And then you need to do a lot of research. It's not different from an art gallery curator or a museum curator, where you need to spend a lot of time researching, finding your own identity. Right now, we have people opening shops or buyers or fashion director that just go and buy brands without really thinking how they will look and feel like in their spaces. And they're looking for the same brands because those brands are giving them deals, they're giving them marketing, they're giving them all kind of deals. And to answer the Gene question, I actually don't see many. There are a couple of people that are fantastic. For example, Bruce Pask at Bergdorf Goodman is a sensational operator, but he does a lot of work in researching and talking to brands and collaborating, understanding the product. He's really an expert in product. So not many people like him.
No, it's got a lot to do with the company culture, because you have to allow people to take risks. That is the biggest problem. That these buyers, they're petrified at the idea of making a mistake and possibly losing their job. They have to have a certain sale per square foot or return per square foot. But the worst is that they're actually forcing some of the brands, which could be more creative, to conform to a certain idea that they have of what should be on the floor. So they'll come to you and they say, what is your color denim, for example, in your line? And you say, well, I don't do color denim because that's not my brand. That's not what I do.
Yeah.
And then we say, no, you have to have color denim because that's what we're selling. That's what's hot. Mm-hmm. And they kind of force you to make something that you should not be making in the first place. You will make it, you will sell it to them, and then it will bomb because everybody else will have exactly the same thing. And so it's not going to be successful. Or they will see a brand that is different and interesting and takes risks. They don't want to put it there because if they put a new brand in there, they have to take something that is already giving them a certain return. It's a risky proposition. So I think it has to be part of the company culture, and absolutely the buyers and the merchandisers have to be better trained. They have to be more professional.
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here with me. I would like to close with one quote from Albert Einstein. If we are to solve the problems that plague us, our thinking must evolve beyond the levels we were using when we created those problems in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Very good. That's a good closing statement. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And thank you, Stefano, for this conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sandeep, for making it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sandeep.